Hello friends, my name is Sundara, and today I would like to speak with you on the difference between work versus service. And typically when we think of work, we think of something we have to do, we have an obligation to do, we have to pay our bills, we have to support our family, just to kind of get by in life. Oftentimes work is associated with hurrying up and getting it done so that we can therefore go home, relax, and do other things. Service, on the other hand, might be, if we have some free time, we can do some service here and there. Here at Ananda and with Yogananda's teachings, meditation and service are opposite sides of the same coin. Ideally, what we do is we would meditate and we calm ourselves so that we can start to get more in tune with our soul nature and feel the deeper qualities of inner happiness and joy and love. And ideally, we'll carry those qualities with us throughout our day and into our work. But what we found here at Ananda and what we're all striving to do, and also within this Karma Yoga program, is we're trying to take the consciousness of work that's been inspired and energized by our meditation and start to transform it into service. And the consciousness becomes a little bit different. And wouldn't we all want to, if we're unwilling to do something, to have a more of a sense of joy and feeling that energy and love flowing through us in whatever actions we're performing? I want to read from you an excerpt from The New Path. This is Swami Kriyananda's autobiography of his spiritual quests and his time with Paramahansa Yogananda. And this is an excerpt from chapter 25, Work versus Meditation. Master once taught, Master being Paramahansa Yogananda, he once taught me a good lesson on the attitude we should hold toward our work. Mrs. Vera Brown, later Mira Mata, an advanced older disciple whom Master had made responsible for training some of the newer ones, was sharing with me a few of her experiences with our Guru. "You work too hard," Master told me one day. "You must work less. If you don't, you will ruin your health." Very well, I thought. I'll try not doing so much. 2 or 3 days later, to my surprise, Master gave me more work to do. Mrs. Brown's eyes twinkled. "Okay, Master," I thought. "You must know what you're doing." I took on my new duties, but all the time I kept wondering, how am I going to reconcile all this extra work with his instructions for me to work less? Well, a couple of days later, after that, Master again told me, more sternly this time, "You must not work so hard. In this lifetime, you've done enough work for several incarnations." What was I to do? Again, I tried cutting down my activities, only to find Master, after 2 or 3 days, give me more work than ever. We repeated this little comedy several times. Every time Master told me to work less, he soon thereafter added duties that forced me to work more. I figured he must know what he was doing, and that it was up to me to try to understand what it was. Well, finally one day I looked at Master. "Sir," I said, "instead of using the word work in our life here, why don't we substitute the word service?" Master laughed. "It has been a good show," he said. "All your life you've been thinking work, work, work. That very thought was exhausting you. But just see how differently you feel when you think of work as a divine service. When you act to please God, you can do twice as much and never feel tired." Mrs. Brown, whose frail body never seemed to run out of energy, no matter what she did, laughed merrily. "You see, the very thought of pleasing God fills us with His energy. Master tells us it's our unwillingness that cuts off the flow of energy." When I was in high school, I had a physics class. And in this physics class, the teacher had us go up to a wall, put our hands against it, and push it as hard as we could. He said, "Try and move the wall." We pushed and pushed. Of course, the wall didn't move. And he just said, keep going, push harder. And we're getting tired and we're starting to sweat. And then he said, okay, you can stop. He said, were you doing work? And we said, of course we were. He says, no, you weren't. He said, the equation of work is force or energy times distance. And I thought, isn't this interesting? This equation of work being force times distance, force being we think we have to kind of put our energy into it. We have a sense of tension around our work, and we have to get a certain result. But if we have a new equation for service, it takes on a whole different meaning in our lives and how we approach our activities. So rather than work being force times distance, what do we think of service as? Service is joyful willingness and not being attached to the results. And when we start to do this, have more of a sense of joyful willingness, time starts to fly by. We start to be like this woman in this reading, always full of energy, even though she was older and she had a frail body. But it's willingness that brings the flow of energy. So as you go through your seva, your service this week, try and start to turn your attitude, which of course in our minds from many, maybe lifetimes of having a sense of work and tension and restlessness and trying to get to a certain end result, start to slowly but surely, and I found this in my 15 years here at Ananda, that slowly but surely, because of meditation and living around others who are constantly trying to see work more as service, slowly but surely our consciousness starts to change. We start to pause a little bit more when we start to feel a little bit restless in our hearts. And we start to pause and we start to feel God's presence flowing through us. We start to notice when we're feeling maybe unwilling, and we start to kind of raise our energy, all born again of meditation. But as you do your service this week, think of this new equation, not as force to a certain result, but rather joyful willingness, not being attached to results. Of course, we all need to do our work and do it well, but the spirit in which we do something, the joy that we do something is much more important than the end result. And we'll find, just as Swami Kriyananda's life showed, he said once, I never do anything that affects my inner peace. And he wasn't a lazy man, he didn't skirt his responsibilities, but he was one of the most productive people that I've ever heard of in my life. And it's because he did it with a sense of inner freedom. Joy to you.